Next Level by Association is really about connecting and creating an intentional peer group of people that are really committed at the highest level to getting to their next level, personally and professionally.
And what I learned is that you have good days and you have bad days, but you don't know which is which, because you don't know what you're going to make of the experience.
Why is it that a Navy SEAL who has put it all on the line, if he says the scariest, most difficult thing I've ever done is to start and run my own business, why do we think that we can do it by ourselves?
Who read the book, The Secret? I got a secret, get off your ass and do something.
If you know what you're doing, show up on time with a smile on your face and do your job, you will always have a job. And then he also added to that, and by the way, the man who knows how will always have a job working for the man who knows why.
You take what they have to say, you know that if you're going to apply it to your life, that it's going to create an impact.
It's a support group for overachievers.
Well, welcome everyone. This is your Next Level Tune-Up. This is the way that you stay engaged and in the process of growing personally and professionally. Maybe you think I'm at a level 8 in that standard. What if you just raised it up to a 9? How would that affect your life?
We come together to get inspired and motivated, but more importantly, to take action. What is the next action we're going to take to get to that next level?
Become a family, and a family of people that got your back and sincerely want you to reach your next level.
I wrote a book, which I never thought I would.
When people push you and make you strive further and push harder.
You go to the damn next level through the front door, the back door, the side door, the chimney, somehow. That's how you go. And you go when you want it bad enough.
Every next level of your life will demand, not request, every next level of your life will demand a different you. All right, well, welcome everyone to Next Level by Association. This is something we've been doing for 10 years now, and we have had some amazing guest of honors, as you know. There's so many people that have come through this program and so many people that have been here for 10 years, for the whole 10 years. And some of you are brand new, some of you are guests tonight. I just want to welcome you and tell you that you're in the right place. How I know it's the right place is because the people that are in this group are the right people. How do I know they're the right people? Because they all are in one accord in this one fact. They all believe that there is a next level for them. And they all believe that the next level will be determining on who they associate with and how they associate. So this is the program that 10 years ago, we decided that we wanted to create an intentional peer group. And it started with 4. In the first month, we had 21 of us. And it's grown and grown. And we've had just so many amazing opportunities to grow as individuals, but also as a group and as a community. And so I just want to welcome you. Tell you thank you for being here and get to know some of the people in the Facebook group. We have a private Facebook group for those that are members. So get to know there. We also have all the past videos. So we've got 4 years of videos that we started videotaping about 4.5 years ago. So they're all available in the website. Let's kind of just jump in with a couple of things though. As you guys know, I just get so connected to so many great people because of so many great people that are willing to connect me. And every now and then, I'll just put it out there, hey, who should I meet? And people will start saying, you need to meet this person, need to meet this person. Well, a couple of days ago, I reached out to my friend, Gail Kingsbury. You guys know Gail. She's been a guest of honor at NLBA. An amazing woman, started her work with Tony Robbins so many years ago when Tony was just starting out, and she's just done some amazing things with working with speakers. So I reached out to her. I said, hey, what's going on with you? How are you? And we started talking, and I said, who should I meet? Is there something? She goes, yes. And so she filled me in. Now, look, when Gail says there's someone I should meet, I don't even need to know the background. I don't even need to know the story because of the relationship currency that she and I have. The answer is just yes. Who should I meet? And so she introduced me to this gentleman that's going to be on here tonight, Michael Stein. And, it was interesting because she started filling me in on a little bit about him. And she goes, I'm just going to text you guys and you guys connect. Well, he and I hopped on FaceTime today, and we just spent maybe 20, 25 minutes just kind of getting to know each other. And I got to tell you, he sent me over his bio and his website. And one of the things that impressed me the most about him was his demeanor. The thing that I love about his demeanor is that he's got a lot of great accolades. He's got a lot of great things that he's accomplished and done. And yet he's still on that mode that he's constantly wanting to learn. Even in his bio, it talks about constantly wanting to learn and constantly wanting to develop and get better and better and better. And if you guys are a member of Next Level by Association, that's really important to me, is people that are not status quo and want to remain stagnant. So tonight's going to be fun because you're going to get to hear, we're going to have a conversation. You guys are going to be a part of it. You're going to be fly on the wall, but make sure that you raise your hand. Let us know that you have a question. So at the end, we can just bring you on. We'll bring you on camera at that time, and you can come on and ask any question you want and make any comments if you want to make some comments. If you're watching Facebook Live, if you're watching on Facebook Live in the group, I'm not going to be checking that as much as I do the Zoom. But if you want to text in a question there, we'll try and look at it and make sure that we get to that. But that being said, guys, Michael, welcome.
Thank you. That was nice, Bob. We did hit it off today, didn't we, when we talked? We clicked well.
We really did. We really did. And I think, one of the things that that I really am, it's really important to me is when I meet someone, if I can be introduced from someone, it helps. And you and I both know that. And then Gail knows exactly the kind of person I'm looking to connect with. And so she's never steered me wrong. So the answer is always yes. And so, I was expecting nothing less than what we've experienced today so far. I read your bio. I try and stay away from bios because I think sometimes they just cloud the way I think about a particular person. But there were some really interesting things in there and, the starting back. I want to talk about this concept. I love the concept of that you classify yourself as a long shot.
Yeah.
Kind of explain that. That's a great term.
I come from a long line of long shots. I identify myself as a long shot. I'll start from the beginning of my long shot story. My dad was a New York homeless street kid. He had parents, but they couldn't afford him. So they put him in an orphanage. He ran away from the orphanage and he wanted to come back. And they said, we don't have money for you. They had two other kids that were younger. And he slept in the alleyway on 2nd and St. Mark's, the Lower East Side, for several months in New York. And then they finally said, okay, you can go sleep on your grandmother's couch. He was 8 years old. He got a job in a watch company and he built himself up. And
hold on.
Eventually,
we're getting a little bit of feedback they're saying from maybe your microphone, but I don't think it's your microphone. There's something though that's giving like a pitchy sound.
It could be me. I'm a terrible singer. No, I'm joking. I'm a little pitchy.
Are you hearing it on your end?
I don't hear it on my end. You sound great.
Yeah. Does he? Yeah. Does he have? No, I don't know. Yeah, it's like an echoey sound. So I'm not sure.
Here.
All right. Well, hopefully we'll just we'll work around it. Maybe it'll go in and out or something. Let's go ahead and continue. Sorry about that.
Okay. Yeah. If it becomes unbearable, let me know.
Nope, it's gone.
So he was homeless for a while. And then he, back in typical New York story, he makes money for his family and then, he saves a little bit for himself and he supports them. And he eventually, became a multimillionaire, but then he lost it all to be homeless again. My mom, he very promiscuous lifestyle was my dad. So when he was rolling, high, he left my mom, and she had, the one thing she kept was the home in Encino. We grew up in Encino. So I had to grow up in the same room with my grandmother until I was 9 years old. And then I got to hear her stories, and she escaped Russia from the concentration camps at gunpoint. So my bedtime story was basically, you should be lucky you're alive. And, and then because my mom was so heartbroken over my dad, I'm the youngest. She so lovingly used to tell everybody that, this is my youngest. He wasn't planned. I drank, I smoked, I ran up and down the stairs, but he survived, and that was like, Mom, they want to order ranch dressing or blue cheese. Can you just get on with the order? She'd tell everybody this story. And basically, I tell you all this because I hear these stories, and I was like, wow, I grew up with an understanding at a young age. Everything is a gift. Everything is like, you're lucky to be here. You're lucky you're not homeless. You're lucky you didn't get shot, trying to escape a country. You're lucky that you were born. So I, also grew up kind of humble, I guess you could say, because I had a learning disability. I was born a couple months early, born in an incubator. That was dating myself, but that's part of that's why I consider myself a long shot. That's the incipient stages of my long shot story.
Wow. The learning disability part always intrigues me, because I think when we hear learning disability, we think, of a lot of different things. And we think of, learning disability, how did it impact you? What were the things that you found about your particular learning disability? What were the things that you found to benefit you from them?
Yeah, there's some, I think I don't give it, in adulthood, I found out, I've been told that I have ADHD.
Okay.
I don't know if it's not an exact science. So I don't want to give myself a kanahora, which is Yiddish for giving yourself like a stigma. But they put me in a school at UCLA called Fernald School when I was like 6 or 7 years old, because I wasn't getting it. And I was around a lot of, strange kids. I said, look, I got to get out of here. I'll do anything. So I was able to get enough, improvement to where I was go back to a regular school, but I really never clicked. So there was a lot of impulsivity. There was a lot of misunderstanding. There was a lot of being quiet when I was supposed to speak up. There was a lot of, loudness when I was supposed to be quiet. And, the way that I really the first bit of success that I got was to self-deprecate. So I would make fun of myself, and my mom was like a cross between Marilyn Monroe and Dawn Rickles. She looked like Marilyn Monroe. Her personality was like very sharp. Huh. So I tried to be like her. And my dad was also like a New York wise, these are witty people. Hmm. So I would stutter because I would think something and I would be a fast talker like them, and I would trip over words. So I would just try to make people laugh. So I guess what they say is a superpower of ADHD is hyper focus, and also being humble, because you feel like you're a square peg in a round hole. You just don't fit. Yeah. So that was I guess a superpower in how I felt at that time.
Yeah, what I found is so many people focus on the challenge of what somebody experienced, and I go, man, when I ask that question, there's so many benefits that people get from their challenges that I would rather focus on the benefits they got from it, because I know growing up I went to 20 different high schools. I had 20 different schools. I went to 6 different high schools, moved all the time, and everyone said, "Oh, it's hard. It's hard." I'm like, "Are you kidding? I got to reinvent myself every 6 months." I mean, are you kidding? I got to make new friends every 6 months. You kidding? I got to learn how to judge people really quick on whether they're a foe or an ally. I saw nothing but blessing in that. But at the same time, if I focused on the other, it would be that. So, as you mentioned, though, as you started your career, you really wanted to be two things: an actor and an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
And which, if you could have only picked one of those, which one would you have picked?
No, I wanted to be an actor. And I gave it a great shot, like in Tony Robbins talks about, he wanted to be a rock star. He wanted to perform like Aerosmith, and there, Mike Rowe talks about, you can go for your passion, but also try to go for opportunity. So I wanted to be, those things, both of those things, because my dad was an entrepreneur, and he was cooler than any actor I knew. You know, he's been loosely portrayed in movies. I won't get into, you know, but he was a very popular person for the right and wrong reasons. And he looked like, if I had to cast my dad in a movie, he looked like a cross between Elvis and Robert De Niro. The mannerisms of De Niro to a T, sound, mannerisms, everything, same neighborhood. So yeah, I basically wanted to be an actor. That was my first love.
And you got to be.
Yeah, I did. My first acting role was playing Dirk Diggler in the Dirk Diggler Story, which is the short film version to the movie Boogie Nights, which eventually I appear in that as well. That was my first, you know, when I was 20 years old, shooting that in the San Fernando Valley and Ventura Boulevard with Paul Thomas Anderson. That was one of his first films. And then he eventually made that into the movie Boogie Nights.
And he brought you into that.
Yeah, he brought me back to have a part in Boogie Nights. And then I saw what he did, and I was like, well, screw that, I could do this too. You know, I mean, I want to be able I started doing things just as we became friends. I was doing documentaries on nightclubs because I got into nightclubs. First, I started, I should say the whole progression of being an insecure kid. I went from making people laugh. That you get a little bit of, you know, security out of your first, you know, success. But I was very unhealthy. I was a weak kid. And then I saw the movie Rocky when I was a kid. And then I started working out a lot. And then I had my second bit of success, which was I became a fitness trainer when I was 16 years old, because I excelled at that. You know, from like 10 years old, everything was fitness after that when I saw the movie Rocky. So then after that, you get a couple successes, even though you've had not many successes at all. I didn't. And then you believe, right? So when I said, well, I want to do stand-up comedy. You know, I did that when I was 19, and I did very well for my first time.
Okay, I got to tell you, I went and watched your videos of comedy. Hilarious. There are some great pieces in there. So guys, check it out. We'll get you a link. We'll put a link in the bottom, guys. But some really funny stuff. So
Awesome.
Sorry, go ahead.
So you start to really believe in yourself. So I said, you know, it's like you're like a kid in a candy store at this point. You're saying, well, I know, I don't care how much I failed. My dad he was a homeless kid, you know, and he didn't have any education. I at least graduated high school, and I had doing some college. So, you know, you start to believe. So I was doing documentaries, and then when you hang around people like my friend Paul at the time, or my girlfriend, not to name drop, better get a broom out because I'm gonna drop some names. My girlfriend, when I was 21 years old, was Elizabeth Goober, and her dad, Peter Goober. And I'd never been around wealth like that, even though I grew up in Encino. Encino's wealthy, but then Bel Air and Peter Goober was like another level.
Yeah.
And you start to see these people, and you're like, wow, you know, I mean, well, they can do it. Why can't I do it? There's only 24 hours a day. So I started doing that. And then when Paul started progressing with his film career, so I made my own film, and I acted in my own film. The first real big film I did was a short film that won a lot of awards and made his first pass to the Academy Award, live action short for the Academy Awards. Didn't, you know, get, you know, nominated or anything, but it was a good film, and I acted in that, cut myself out because it wasn't, you know, just pacing was better. And
wait. You want to be an actor. You create a film there. You are the actor. You are in charge of who's going to be in the film, and you cut yourself out.
Yeah, you got to be brutal like that. You know, if you want it to be the best you can be, and you want it to be under a half hour, it was a short film, and it was 29 minutes and 30 seconds. And I was like, and the scene was just like, could it work without it? And I was the writer, director, producer. And I was like, I put a lot of money into that film. I wanted that film to be my calling card to make movies and act, you know, so I kicked myself out.
Well, I tell you, you know, I have a lot of respect and admiration for that, because the easier thing would have been to keep yourself in. The better thing for the overall good was to get yourself out, according to you. So I have a lot of respect for that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So yeah. So then after that, I was broke. After I did that film, I got close to getting a movie deal. You know, we had all these meetings at Trimar Pictures and Lionsgate and Joel Silver and all these names, and you meet everybody. And sometimes they just want to meet you because if you pop big, you know, they want to like, you know, just know you. And it just didn't turn, you know, I had 3 screenplays at that point, but there were one was getting close to getting made and nothing turned over. So I was broke.
Now, when you say broke, what was broke to you at that point? You know, we hear all these people that say they're broke, but you know, what was broke to you?
I filed bankruptcy after doing my film because all the people that said they're going to give me money. So I filed bankruptcy. I was in debt.
Wait, you're in Hollywood and they lied to you? Are you sure?
Yeah. These are friends, actually. These are not Hollywood people. These are just like people like, yeah, I'll give you money. Yeah, you know, and a short film, you know, on celluloid, you know, 35 millimeter, it's you know, 65 grand, you know, and real actors and familiar faces and they worked on spec, but still, you know, you got you know, costs, you know, so and it was worth it because I felt like I had inertia behind me at that point. It was going to pop, and it was, I'm a good networker, you know, I'm like, I can make this happen. And boy, you want to talk about a tough business, you know, Hollywood is a tough business. And it came close, and I require the lifeblood of the engine, you know, as I need money, you know, that's the other entrepreneurial side of me, right?
Yeah.
I was a production assistant for 5 years. And I'm like, I need to make some money here. And went through a long haul because when I was a nightclub promoter, did I get to that point yet?
We touched on it.
Okay. So after I did stand-up comedy, before I did films, before I did acting, I was the top nightclub promoter in Los Angeles for my age bracket when I was 20 to about 7 years worth of 20 to 27. My age bracket was from 16 years old to 23-year-olds. I was like the top nightclub promoter in Los Angeles in the late 80s when I was 20 years old to 27. And that's how it segued into meeting people, into getting into doing a film. So so I was always an entrepreneur. I was a fitness trainer when I was 16. You know, I wasn't really hireable, although I worked as a trainer at a gym. And then I became a nightclub promoter where you're your own boss. You know, you're like a mini celebrity. You know.
Yeah.
And then I became a production assistant for 5 years where you're like a plebeian, you know, you're like, you know, you're a slave and it pays well when there's a job, but I wanted to learn the ins and outs of filmmaking, you know. So then when I did the film, you're broke, you're living paycheck to paycheck, and that's not for me. So I said, screw this. It was when the internet was young, it was late 90s. And I was like, I want to do something on the internet. I want to sell a widget on the internet. And after a year of development hell with not turning over to a movie deal, I said, I'm going to start. I had to find a product and sell a widget to make money, you know, so I can be an entrepreneur again. And should I keep going?
Yeah. You know,
okay.
Yeah. I mean, when you're talking about nightclub promoting and stuff, you know, you think somebody in their 20s and even early 30s, like, man, that's my dream, man. If I could be around all those people every night and have, but you know, I've known a few that have kind of done the same thing. It's just like, okay, at some point, enough's enough.
I didn't dance, I didn't drink, I don't smoke, I don't do any, you know, I'm a health person, you know, but see what we're doing here tonight? I would do that with 1,000 people, 7 nights a week, 7 days a week to promote my nightclub because that's what I like to do. Yeah. I like people. I like to talk. I like to hear what they have to say. And it's an entrepreneurial, I like to see how big I could blow something up. I want the fire marshal coming here. I want 500 people outside. I want 1,000 people inside. And I want them to say, you can't bring any more people in here. This was crazy.
Yeah.
You know, we're all men. We all like to blow things up, right? So I excelled at that. And also with my hyper personality at the time, I'm more subdued now, but I was younger. I was a lot more hyper. I was able to talk and get a lot of energy spent every night. And so I excelled at that. But I wasn't into, I was just into the social aspect of it, you know. So, and I really, you know, go through a lot of growing pains, you you just think, when you excel at something so quickly, I excelled at nightclub promoting really quickly. And they said, well, you can open up a restaurant. You can open up your own nightclub. What do you want to do next? And I was like, I want to be a comedian. I wanted to, I don't want to tie myself down yet. I wanted to be an actor. I wanted to be a comedian. So everything took a back seat. So I just dropped everything to become, after, when I was in the height of my nightclub, career, I dropped everything to become a production assistant, which was really humbling.
I bet.
So, like, go get that, go do this, go do, just to, get people, this is supposed to be latte, and all that. And people just, barking at you, but anyways, I, back to 5 years later, and after development hell, I'm not getting a film made, I said, I'm gonna be an entrepreneur again. So I sold the widget, and I just decided to sell tarps. I looked at a bunch of items, and my dad was working as a jobber. He was working in a small little apartment, and he's like, here, sell abrasive wheels or sell drill bits. Because one of his old business partners was a guy named Alan Smith, who started a company called Harbor Freight. That was another thing. My dad was his partner in his late 60s, and then he became the calculator kid by selling calculators with this mail order campaign in the 70s. And then he burned all his money, and they went back to the tool business, but he lost his step, and his friend became a billionaire. So I was like, wow, I got to be careful with that, So I decided, if I'm going to start this business, I'm going to hold on to this business. So I got to choose the product wisely. I don't want it to be like calculators and be a fad. So what do people need forever? What do people use all the time? And I was like, they're colorful. It was simple. And tarps was something, and my dad had a supplier for it. So he gave me 4 phone numbers. I took my convertible Buick Skylark. I made my first sale. And then I drove down to Compton to pick up the merchandise, and I shipped it out of my, my house that I was renting was like a shack in Sherman Oaks. You can believe it. Now it's probably worth a lot of money, but I was barely able to make rent. And I'll tell you a good story.
Yeah.
So, you start a business for the first time, and I'm like, okay, I sold a $250 sale. I can maybe have, I can buy my own groceries, and I could pay the electricity and all that, and I wasn't used to living like this, because when I was 7 years prior, but I was you get used to that, right? So I get a phone call, and it's like about a month in, it's all web-based business working out of my house. You get a sale, and you pick up the product, and you ship it out. Guy's like, I need $17,500 worth of tarps, and I need it within 72 hours. And I'm in LA, and this guy is in Jersey at a factory. I was like, well, we're the largest tarp supplier on the planet, and I'll get it for you. So, yeah, we'll make it happen. So I get off the phone, and I was like, don't know how to deliver this stuff. So then I call up one of my production assistant friends, because I don't have even trucking companies, yet. I'm trying to get trucking quotes. They're like, they want $17,500 to go to do what I wanted to do right away.
Right.
So I get a production truck from Galvin Ford Studio Rentals. I pick up my PA on a film set. I was like, you're coming with me. I'll pay your rate plus ×2, because you don't get paid that much.
Right.
So we just tag team for 72 hours. He drives, I drive, he drives, and we go straight there, and I deliver the product. The guy's like, wow, I didn't think you were going to be here until Tuesday. I'm like, you said you needed it Monday morning. I was like, I could have slept. Oh my God. But I remember I got the deal done, and I remember sitting there booking a train back. And I was like, you cry. It was Christmas time, and I cried, because you don't have money for so long. And you're like, I know how I'm going to pay my rent. I know how I'm going to eat. I'm not going to, your significance is bruised for so long, and you feel a sense of pride. So that was a great moment. And that business has lasted me ever since. And it's become a multi-million-dollar business, and I'm very grateful for it.
So you went from that to nothing, to that $17,000 order, to building a multi-million-dollar business out of that one product.
Yeah, the first year, you work the hardest in the beginning of a business, right? At first, I was working hard before the business started, because I was doing the production assisting at night, all day, 17-hour days. And then you start you're building a website at night. And, everybody likes to say, well, I had the vision. I didn't know I was going to do that well. I thought I was going to do that well. I was just working with blinders on, because I've done work with blinders on before, just work the hardest you can with an overall vision, but you don't know how big it can be. And you just keep going and going and building and building. And sometimes you surprise yourself on how big something can get.
So you start out wanting to be an actor, entrepreneur, you do the acting, everything's kind of like, okay, but it comes to a stall. And then you become this entrepreneur that actually takes it from a simple idea of a tarp. You know, it's amazing that you didn't try and build a business around something big. You built it around a simple idea that a tarp that a lot of people needed. But you know, the most impressive part, and I'll tell you, is that you built the business to the level that you did. But now what you've done with that business is what's really been impressive to me. So can you share that? I mean, that's powerful.
Sure. So when I was a nightclub promoter, and this is a segue into that, you're like, what are you talking about? I want to talk about the tarp. So when I was a nightclub promoter, because my dad was homeless, I used to do, it's in LA, it was really big. It's the biggest, to this day, anybody that watches this, it was the biggest pre-Thanksgiving party in LA nightclub history. It was called Turkey Soup. And the night before Thanksgiving, I would do a big event. And with Turkey Soup, if you brought a canned food for the homeless, you would get in for half price. You still had to make money, but if you brought a canned food, and then I would take the canned food down to the LA Mission and they would have food. So when I started my tarp business, I did Turkey Soup for like beyond after I stopped promoting clubs. I did Turkey Soup for like 13 years. And because it was like such a big event, it was like an institution, you know, people would really look forward to it. You know, people would go out, college kids would come from back in town for the holidays. So when I started tarps, I realized that people were using tarp, the homeless would use tarps for shelter in the cold season. So I said, I will donate tarps for Thanksgiving and do the same thing that I used to do with the nightclubs. So now the LA Mission, I don't know if you know this, but before Thanksgiving, every year they have their annual drive, you know, not just for tarps, but they feed the governor, gives people pedicures and manicure, he washes their feet, or the mayor does that. Mayor Garagosa has done that several times. And then I donated, it got good to me. And I'm like, this is great. It's like, you get reciprocal. And, in the beginning, when I did it, I was like, we're just going to do this as a tool to get more people at the nightclub. But what happens is it's half selfish, it feeds your significance, but also all the 6 human needs psychology that we talked about earlier in the pregame.
Sure.
You feel significance from it. You feel a connection to people. You feel like you're contributing. You feel a sense of certainty about yourself. You feel a sense of variety. You're just not doing the same thing every day. All the 6 human needs that you need to get by contributing something, you're feeding your soul and your body. So that was really good. And I've done that every year. I didn't do it this year, but I tried to. They said because of COVID, they're not doing it. But and then I did it in New York. I did it at Skid Row in New York. And I did it in Washington, D.C. And I did it out here in Austin. I donated tarps and pop-up tents and things like that. And so
unreal. So that's what we talked about earlier, was that you moved to Austin.
Yeah.
And when I asked you why Austin, what brought you there? What do you remember?
It's a state, California state income tax. When you start making money and writing big checks, you want to attain as much wealth as you can, and to build a bigger business, to have a better life, for the greater good. Some people say, well, the greater good would be paying more taxes. Well, the triad of a good decision is if it's good for me, and if it's good for you, and it's good for the greater good. And I felt, well, not every decision is perfect. It wasn't the greater good for California, but it was the greater good for Texas. It was the greater good for me. It was the greater good for my family. It was the greater good for the business to try to have less tax liability. So I made that choice. Also, my best friend who lived out here before I did, I have like 5 friends from Encino that all live in Austin now. It's the craziest thing.
So crazy. Yeah.
So I moved out here. It was turnkey because it was like never leaving Encino. Because he was out here and other friends were out here. And with the internet, I never felt like, the only thing is I miss like Chin Chin Restaurant or Dan Tana's restaurant, all my restaurants in LA. That's what you miss when you move. But I moved out to Austin for that.
Wow. And you've lived there how long now?
10 years.
10 years. And, you're still doing your business because you can do that from anywhere. Is there anything you miss about before you were doing your tarp business? Is there anything you miss?
Yes, I miss doing stand-up comedy at the Comedy Store. I used to do it with a group, and I'm recording of his podcast session tomorrow. Greg Dean, he's the foremost leader in what makes, you know how you study what makes people do what they do? Why do human psychology? Greg has studied his whole life since the mid 80s. I started studying with him in 87. He has studied what makes people laugh. So he has written several books. He's been an authority on this. And I miss the comedy group, Greg Dean's comedy group. We would get together, we'd perform at the Comedy Store. Before COVID hit, he moved it over to the Improv. So I miss doing stand-up comedy with my friend Greg Dean. And I was going on auditions, and I do miss, filmmaking, but I still write. So I really, but as far as performing in LA, I miss that. I could do that here.
Yeah.
But LA, performing at a comedy club in LA is what I miss the most.
Yeah. I can only imagine. I do love the comedy club, so I go any chance I get it. I get, because I love them. I have a great time. When you think about your life looking backwards, there's a lot of things you've learned. In the last 10 years, what have been some of the biggest things you've learned?
That's a great question. And Glenn Close has a great line in the movie The Natural. And she says, I believe we have two lives, one that we learn with and one that we live with. So I believe that, the first half of your life, you're really learning from it. It really just felt like in these past 10 years, I really feel like the past 6 or 7 years, after both of my parents died, it's the way that they died. My mother died slowly. My dad, he died. I didn't get to find out about it till 2 months after he died, because he married a woman that was, didn't want him to talk to his children. He lived a very strange life. But you learn all these, like you talked about pain, or you talked about adversity, iron sharpens iron.
Sure.
Basically, those are the things that help you to learn. So what have I learned so much? I made so many mistakes, when somebody I met about 6 years ago said, I think you have ADHD. And I said, well, I really don't believe in that, because I don't know if it's measurable. You really can't do a CAT scan and really say if you have that. But then I started to, he started rattling off all these things. I'm like, yeah, well, that is me. And if you become cognizant towards a disposition that you might have, well, let me pay credence to that. So what have I learned is that to really kind of look at things more objectively, to bring that pain, to where you could really learn about yourself, be brutal with the pain about what your inadequacies are and all the mistakes that you made. So you try not to make those same mistakes again. That's what I've learned. Repetition,
lesson.
Putting in the reps for that.
Yeah. That's a powerful lesson, though.
It is, and that's just sometimes, when you're dense, like me, I would consider me a dense person. Like, if I'm going to learn how to, start a business, it's going to take me a long time to build a website. I'm going to start a podcast. It takes me a lot of time to process it. I've written 7 screenplays. Pain in the ass it is for me to, like, each screenplay is like going to battle. But the good thing is, if you believe in hyperfocus or ADHD or whatever, right? You can hyperfocus on that. You can lock everything in, and you don't, hyperfocus. They say that people with ADHD have an amazing hyperfocus where they're able to focus on one thing so great. They just lock themselves in a room. And I am like that when it comes to certain things, but it is tough. It is a battle. So that's part of understanding your growth, I think, is whatever the inadequacies are.
Yeah. You've had, you mentioned one of your teachers kind of discouraged you from becoming an actor, an entrepreneur, all that stuff. But who encouraged you along the way? I mean, we all need those cheerleaders or those people that pump us up. Who have been the encouragers to you?
Well, your parents are, right. there's so many people. I don't know if it's one person actually. With me, it was my dad. I wanted to be the calculator kid, and he never finished the 8th grade. I said he sold all these calculators, right? He bought a bunch, he did this big campaign, $2 million in a 14-month span in the early 70s was a lot of money, you see that.
No doubt.
So I saw it, things that he did right, and I saw things that he did wrong. So he influenced me big time because he had limousine. He spent all his money, his lifestyle. Speaking of Boogie Nights, like loosely based, his character was the Burt Reynolds character, of that lifestyle. So he had, he brought a prostitute to my bar mitzvah. That's not right. That's not right, Bob. You shouldn't do that. That's rule number 1 in the Jewish religion. Don't bring a prostitute to somebody's bar mitzvah. I think it says that in the First Testament, actually. So, I just saw a lot of wrong and a lot of right. So he was actually an influence for that. And I learned a lot. And that's what influenced me because he didn't finish 8th grade. Well, I finished high school and all that. So people like that, meeting someone like Peter Gruber and their family, that was a big thing for me. I never met anybody with that kind of wealth before. And they really
there's rich and then there's wealth. Goober is wealth.
Yeah. And they were nice. They were really, we're both, their daughter and I were both young, but they sat me down and this is, I made so many mistakes. They sat me down and said, because I didn't want to do nightclubs. I didn't want that to be my only thing, even though I was so good at it, but it wasn't my original plan. So they sat me down because my girlfriend Elizabeth told them that Mike's depressed, and they sat me down. I kicked myself. They're like, "Look, we love you. We want to help you. What do you need?" And I wouldn't even let her buy me like a sandwich or anything. Nothing. We would go to like a restaurant. I was like, "You can't buy me anything because I don't want to accept anything." They said, "Look, when somebody wants to give you something, it makes them feel good to give it to you." And this is hard. I didn't learn this for a long time. I still struggle with this. And they said, what do you want? I said, I want to be a comedian. And they said, well, let us introduce you to Bud Friedman. And I was like, no, I gotta be ready. I gotta be ready for that. So I could. There's a lot of things I could have done. Yeah. But it's just youth and I will be the first to admit I'm very dense. Everything that I've learned and done took like banging up against the wall. And there's like this podcast I'm going to launch. It's brutal for me. It's tough. I'm writing a book right now. Yeah. That's harder for me than writing a screenplay. That's a brutal bitch of a task, wow. Man. So who's been influences? People like that. Yeah. And two teachers, Greg Dean, who, like I said, he was a disciple of John Grinder in NLP and neuro-linguistic programming. So when you're 20 years old and you're learning about, you think you're going to a stand-up comedy class, but then you learn about, he did Not Walking on Fire like in Tony Robbins, but he would put a pad down and have all the students, because everybody's afraid to go on stage. Some people would say they fear going on stage more than death.
Yeah.
But he's like, he takes those yellow pads, he says 50 feet away, he says, I want you to close your eyes and walk up to this pad. And the person that hesitates is not, you got to put your hand down and touch it. Well, the person that always hesitates never touches the pad. If you close your eyes and you walk without hesitation and you put your hand down, you're going to touch the pad. So he was very influential. And that's the same thing as the fire walk of Tony Robbins.
Yeah. And
the other person that's really influential, I just recorded him on the podcast, Eric Morris. He's going to be 90 years old this year. He is the longest acting coach for coaching for actors in LA. And he wrote he's on his 12th book. He's was best friends with Jack Nicholson and Martin Landau and all these great actors, and he still teaches his class. He's doing it virtual now because of COVID, but right there on Wilshire Boulevard, his theater, it's going to open right back up as soon as everybody comes back. And he's going to be 90, and he's got his 12th book. And once again, a psychological edge to his teaching. He has like hundreds of exercises that have a psychological experience to it to get you ready to be a better actor. And I'd say he's very influential because from personal growth to, with my two teachers there, my dad, Peter Gruber, and Elizabeth Gruber, my girlfriend when I was younger, she broke up with me. She was young, right? It was a good breakup. 6 months later, she calls me up and she says, I really feel like you're better than what you're going through right now. And I have a great gift for you. I want you, this is like in 1990. She goes, you should buy the Tony Robbins tapes. And I was like, back then it was Anthony Robbins. And I was like, the guy in the infomercials with the big teeth, that guy? And she's like, yeah, he's friends with my dad. And that was a gift because I like that 30, remember that 30-day program, those tapes?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. You learn best when you wake up in the morning and when you go to sleep, right? Your subconscious is, recording really well. So remember those old cassette, alarm clocks. So I'd wake up to Tony Robbins and I'd go to sleep to Tony Robbins, and I eventually did every seminar he's ever done and then did leadership after that. And that was really influential to do that too.
Yeah, I bet. So guys, as we start to wrap this up, if you have a question, go ahead and bring yourself on or type it in. Be more than happy to answer that.
I hope I gave you what you wanted. I wasn't sure on how, is this okay?
This is perfect.
All right,
if you guys are watching this recorded, you can type in the questions. He's a member of the group now, so you guys you can type in questions. He'll answer there too. But go ahead and type in questions or bring yourself on. I know Flo always has questions or great comments. So I know, Flo, why don't you just go ahead and bring yourself on, because I know you will.
You always call me out.
Oh, love that name. Oh.
You were saying, I like your story. It's really cute. And I'm going to have to go back, and when Bob says, your comedy is funny, I have to go back and check it out. So, I'll see the younger Michael. But anyway, you were saying you made many mistakes, and what would you say if you could do it all over again? What would you do over?
I would change my name at my bar mitzvah and say my name is going to be Miles Benjamin Knight. I think it's a better name than Michael Stein, so I would do that first. Then I would tell my dad, look, there's a garage up in Palo Alto, somewhere around there. We got to look up. There's a guy named Steve Jobs in Wozniak or something. We got to go up there. I want to be an apprentice. No, what would I do differently?
Those would be really good right there. That's a great one.
I would do that. I wouldn't buy Polaroid. So I would tell myself, if I can go back, I would say what I tell my daughter, who has also been diagnosed with ADHD, don't be embarrassed by anything, because when I used to see my older sister sometimes would get embarrassed, and I said, I'm going to stop doing that. But I would do it at a much earlier age and say, it's more embarrassing to get embarrassed by what you feel is embarrassing. So try not to get embarrassed. So I would say, don't be embarrassed by anything, and invest in your brain. Really just be disciplined and try to invest in your brain, and beat yourself against a wall to fight that urge to procrastinate. Don't procrastinate. Fight it. And I would just tell myself that. The moment that you feel like you're procrastinating, fight that. Force your head to go in a certain direction and look at a direction and get away from procrastination.
Mm.
Good one.
Great. Thank you.
So everyone else is being really shy. I see people in the Facebook group. People are being shy. Bill, if you're still there, you typically always have a good question. Megan, Bobby Joe. So guys, but as we wrap this up, Michael, I just want to tell you, it's been great getting to know you today, and I really appreciate you hopping on tonight. And I love. What's your favorite? I have a couple of friends of mine are comedians, Kyle Cease and Taylor Tomlinson is somebody I know through her parents. And I always am fascinated by what's their favorite comedic piece of theirs. What's yours?
Okay. This is a good question. So, man, that's a great question to ask a comedian. I have one. I'll tell you a real quick story. When Elizabeth Goober, she knew I wanted to be a comedian. She saw Robin Williams at the Academy Award when her dad won the Academy Award for Rain Man. She said, Robin, my boyfriend wants to be a comedian. Could you write him something? He grabs an Academy Award napkin, right? And he says, he writes it, and he hands it to her. And then she says, Mike, good luck with comedy, if not steady welding. And she goes, what does that mean? And he says, well, I wanted to be a comedian. And my dad said, well, that's fine. You can be a comedian. But if it doesn't work out, you should study something else, Robin, like welding, something practical. So he wrote me that. And Robin Williams was always my favorite at that time. And he did a routine where somebody said, and it's not on video, it's only on audio. And it's on an album called Reality, What a Concept. Robin Williams, Reality, What a Concept. And somebody, he says a joke and they go, ooh. And he goes, oh, ooh? It was almost like a boo. And he's like, come inside my brain and see what happens when the comedian bites the big one. Come on in. And he goes through this whole cerebral thing of what a comedian thinks about when he's getting heckled or when he's bombing. And it's your brain. And he's giving you an auditory, he's like, I'll be the arbitrator, you be this. And he's going through this whole litany of, it's the most amazing routine to go inside a comedian's brain. And that's in the late 70s he did that. He was revolutionary. He was awesome.
Yeah, definitely. I loved him. I got a couple of questions. One, Bill Janishek, who he's a member since day one. We actually launched it from his office. When I was speaking one day at his office, we launched this from that. He says he has questions, but he's going to have to, he's driving, so he'll post them in Facebook later. Bobby Joe Cook says, what do you think your biggest obstacle to date has been?
For me, it's distraction. It's fighting distraction. And the energy's there. But, for me, it's a personal battle where I have to keep focused, and not deviate. And it gets easier as you get older if you're cognizant of that, right? So that's been just the past several years, really starting to understand time management and how it's all emotional, really, because we all know how to manage the time, but it's the day-to-day, the nuts and bolts of every day. Tomorrow, you're going to go to work or whatever you're going to do. Tomorrow, I'm going to have a schedule. And how much can we maximize out of that 24 hours? And not every bit of that has, to juice, but that's the commodity is time management and focus on what you need to get done and your milestones. I set milestones down on spreadsheets and that's the biggest gift actually. Setting a milestone on a spreadsheet with a due date, that's simplicity and keep things simple. But those are the obstacles, making sure that you stay focused and meet your milestones.
So final question, what's next? Where do you go from here?
Well, I think I told you earlier in the pregame, I just want to be like, there's a movie called Broadway Danny Rose, where old comedians are sitting in Carnegie Deli and they're just talking to each other. So this podcast is like, that long shot leaders talking to people like yourself that have overcome adversity, funny people, serious people, all kinds of people. And just, so the podcast is a long-term thing for me that launches in March.
How can people learn about that podcast? How can they get access to it? What do they need to do?
It's going to be everywhere podcasts are. And on March 8th, we're going to launch it. It'll be launched by March 8th in that 72-hour period.
Okay.
And it's called Long Shot Leaders. You can go to longshotleaders.com, sign up to the guest list, and they'll be prepared, and I'll let you know about it. And we got Stipe Miocic, who's a current UFC heavyweight champion. My friend Sean Spector, who started a company called Gamefly. Davin Michaels, who you're friends with, New York Times bestseller on outsourcing. Another friend of mine, his dad he brought Sony to the US. He named Sony Super Scope of New York and on the rants, Robert Tuschinski. A lot of personal friends. I'm gathering up all my personal friends. Joey Goober, who started Yoga and Beyond. And I got other people that are not confirmed, some really good, solid people. So that's a big thing. So the podcast is something that fulfills me very much. And then we'll be launching a branded product in a year that will hopefully be a very successful branded product. And I have a screenplay that there's an independent filmmaker. I won't name him because I haven't hit him up yet. He doesn't know I'm going to ask him, but I want him to direct a film that I wrote, a nice drama, and those are my main plans right now. Those three things.
Those are some good ones. Any one of those would be a life accomplishment for a lot of people. So that's phenomenal. Well, Michael, I again just want to thank you, and I'm looking forward to a friendship that develops here, and I'm looking forward to some opportunities that we can create with each other and have a great time. And man, best of luck to everything you're doing. Can't wait to see and hear your podcast. March.
Yeah, I can't wait for you to be on it because your story is amazing, and we don't want to get into it now, but I just can't wait to get to know you because I guess Gail, our mutual friend that introduced us, she saw something, and I'm really excited to have you be part of my friendship as well.
Likewise. Well, thank you, brother. Get out there, have a great week. You guys members, if you've got something that you want to come on and share, something that you've accomplished, do that in the Facebook group. Let us know, how we can support you, what's going on in your life, good or bad. If there's something challenging, man, we want to know, and we want to be able to support you through that. And maybe you've had a great accomplishment this last 30 days. Maybe you've had that thing where you've just gone, I've been working on this, and it finally came through, or I'm so close. We'd love to know about that and share that there. We'd love to support you and encourage you in whatever way we can. But guys, get out there, make it a great week, and enjoy your next level.